My sister is severely autistic. I have been hating her for a long time. My sister is severely autistic, and I hate her for making my life a living nightmare. I hate her, and it's probably not the right thing to say, but that's how it feels. Ever since my sister was born, I've kind of disappeared from my parents' radar. I was 6 and excited to be a big sister, but that excitement quickly faded. The changes were gradual but sure. Suddenly, I moved into the basement because she needed to be closer to Mom and Dad. It hurt. The basement was eerie and cold, and I missed the warmth of being around them. The nights there were long and lonely. I could hear the rest of the family upstairs and felt cut off, like I was more of an appendage than a daughter. Losing the toys to her was another blow. She didn't break them on purpose, but it happened all the time. I remember trying to explain to my parents how upset this was, hoping for some sympathy, maybe even justice. But all I heard back was, "She's younger. She doesn't understand. You're the big sister, you have be more understanding." It seemed so unfair. These toys were my escape, and seeing them broken without any attention from my parents only added to the feeling of being invisible. The MacBook incident was the last straw. The school gave it to me because I was a good student, and one day it was just destroyed. The school was angry with me for negligence, and my parents only added to the accusations. No one thought that it was not my fault. I was angry and upset, but most of all I felt alone in dealing with this mess. It wasn't just about the laptop, it was about no one protecting me. It's really hard trying to balance being a sister and having your own life. I love my sister, of course, but my parents seem to forget that I am a child too. Every time she needs something, I have to drop everything. It doesn't matter if I'm studying, hanging out with friends, or just trying to relax. It's like I'm always on call, even without agreeing to it. I don't remember the last time I had a quiet time with friends without constantly checking my phone, afraid of missing a call home asking me to come back right away. My life seemed to be constantly on pause, always waiting for the next crisis or the next need for help. The day I decided to go see the new Spider-Man movie was a big one for me. It's been a long time since I planned something just for myself. My friend Jake has been talking about this movie for weeks, and his enthusiasm has rubbed off on me. I needed that rest for a few hours when I could just be a teenager and not a caregiver. So I decided, this time I'm going to turn off my phone to enjoy the movie and not worry about anything else for just 2 hours. When I left the movie theater and turned on my phone, I felt like I had been hit by a truck. Missed calls and messages everywhere. I immediately called home, and the joy of the movie faded with each beep. When Mom picked up the phone, her anger shot through me. "Where have you been? We needed you an hour ago." I could hardly say anything in response. I ran home feeling guilty, but also a little angry. When I arrived, it was like being caught in a storm. My parents were furious, their frustration palpable in the room. "We're counting on you, and you just decided to disappear to watch a movie?" My father's voice was harsh, his words cutting through the background sounds of my sister, as if going to the movies was some kind of crime. I tried to explain that I just wanted to rest, but it didn't matter. "Your duties here are more important than some movie," Mom added, her words final. They punished me, said that I was irresponsible all because of the film. Sitting in my room afterwards, I realized it wasn't about the movie. It's about feeling stuck. Yes, I understand my sister needs me, but sometimes I just want to do something normal without feeling guilty or getting in trouble. Being 18 years old and feeling like you're not allowed to have your own life is hard. It's about feeling trapped in a role I never chose, about wanting some semblance of normality in a life that feels far from normal. I love my sister deeply, but at that moment I couldn't help but feel that I had been deprived of the simple teenage experiences of friendship and carefree moments. Living in my house feels like being stuck in a cycle where everything revolves around my sister and her needs. And don't get me wrong, I understand that she needs a lot of care and I want to be there for her, but sometimes it feels like I'm just another task on the family to-do list. Help my sister. Take care of her. Can't you see that we're busy with her? It's exhausting, feeling more like an extra hand than an actual family member. This feeling of being invisible, unless they need something for her, creates a feeling of slavery in one's own home. I carry this burden, the question of self-worth at home, more than as a real family member. Then there was a week that seemed different. I was chosen to give a speech at a school function. Something about that recognition ignited a spark in me. I worked hard on that speech, putting my thoughts and feelings into every word. When my parents said they were coming to see me, I felt valued for the first time in a long time. Finally, something about me. I worked on my speech every night, imagining myself looking out into the crowd and seeing my parents there, maybe even catching their proud smile. This passion was like a beacon, a rare light in the usual darkness of my daily life. Maybe this time things will be different, but no, they missed it because of something with my sister. Everything was blamed on her again. Standing in front of the audience, ready to start my speech, and not seeing them there was devastating. I spoke. My voice was shaking. My hands were shaking. Shaking, I cried not just because of the speech, but because of all the times I felt left out. Yes, I held on and people applauded, but it was empty. I couldn't stop the tears all the way home. It's not like I wanted to make a big deal about them missing the speech, but it just hit me. It felt like a reminder that no matter what happened to me, it would always be secondary. Walking home, all I could think about was that this pattern seemed endless. Talking about colleges with my dad was something I looked forward to. Everything started off fine. I was really excited. For the first time it felt like we were focused on my future, on something that was about me. I entertained the idea, thinking maybe college was my chance to break free and do my own thing, away from all the chaos at home. We looked at brochures, talked about majors and campuses. It was the closest I'd come to my dreams in a long time. Then Dad made that joke, something about choosing a high-paying major so I could take care of my sister when they were gone. He laughed, thinking it was just a flippant comment, but it really hit me hard. All my pent-up feelings just exploded. I couldn't help myself. I started to cry and then scream, telling him how unfair it was that my whole life was expected to revolve around taking care of my sister. Everything came out. Every drop of resentment, every moment of feeling unappreciated and invisible, trying to make him understand how much I had to give, how it always came down to what my sister needed. But they did not understand. My parents just stood there looking at me like I was speaking another language, watching me lose control. No comfort, no apologies, nothing. Their faces were so cold, so detached, as if they couldn't understand why I was so upset about the joke. It was then that I realized that they were not going to listen to me. I ran to my room, slammed the door, and have been there ever since. Here's the thing. I was there for hours and they didn't even try to check on me. Not a knock, not a word, nothing. It was so lonely sitting there and knowing that even being so upset wasn't enough to make them see how much I hurt. Like I'm stuck in this role they've set for me, and my feelings about it don't matter at all. Am I wrong to want more than that? Wanting to be seen as more than just a future caregiver for my sister? It feels like no matter what I do, my life doesn't matter. I am nothing to them, more than insurance for my sister after they die. Hours turned into a day and then another without a word from my parents. Something has changed in me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had to change. It wasn't just about getting away for a bit. It was about needing space to sort things out without being stuck in the same old situation all the time. I thought about the only person who always seemed to understand me, my grandfather. Without big plans, I just packed some things in a backpack one evening and left. I wrote to him that I would come. I half expected him to try to tell me off or call his parents, but he didn't. He simply wrote back, "The door is open." Staying with my grandfather was a revelation. It's not like every moment is some kind of deep heart-to-heart conversation, but it's just calm here. He allows me to be myself. We talked about college, what I might want to do, and for the first time in a long time I could think about my future without feeling guilty or stressed. He supported me by encouraging me to think about what I want, not what I feel obligated to do. It's strange, but in just a week here I felt more myself than in recent years. We had dinner together, watched old movies, and he told stories about what he was like at my age. It was nice, simple, and somehow liberating. I even started researching colleges again, this time looking at programs that really interested me, not just ones that could make me enough money to take care of my sister in the future. Being with my grandfather gave me an idea of what it could be like, and that's something I want to keep. Wow, thank you for all the support and love you have given me. I never expected this post to become so popular. Thank you all. After thinking about it these past few hours, you are right that I do not hate my sister. It's not her fault she was born the way she is. My parents came to talk to me after my breakdown, but I couldn't bring myself to talk to them and just cried and asked them to leave. They agreed with my grandfather that I would stay with him for a while. For me to stay with him for the time being, my parents want to talk to me. but we have decided it's best I leave for now to have some space and time to collect myself. We will be sitting down and talking later this week about this issue. Thank you all again for the love and support through this. I started by telling my grandpa the story of why I broke down the way I did. And to be honest, when I finally spilled everything to Grandpa, his reaction was way more intense than I expected. I mean, I knew he'd be surprised, but he looked downright shocked, horrified. I told him all about how things have been at home, how I've basically been my sister's full-time caregiver on top of everything else, and how it all came crashing down that day with my dad's joke about college and taking care of her forever. Grandpa was seriously upset, especially when he found out that my sister was supposed to have professional help that she wasn't getting. He said a lot of stuff. He told me some things that I don't feel comfortable repeating here, but in essence, my sister is supposed to be getting care from a professional, and that my parents were ignoring that. But the gist was that it wasn't right or safe for me to be in that position, especially with how things were with my sister. He couldn't believe my parents were putting all this on me and that they'd kept so much from the rest of the family. He was also really mad about the whole movie incident, saying it was the last straw that showed how unfairly I was being treated. Grandpa's pretty chill most of the time, so seeing him this mad was kind of a big deal. He told me straight up not to talk to my parents unless he was there, which was a relief, honestly. He said he'd talk to them first, sort everything out, and be there with me for any conversations in the future. But it wasn't just Grandpa. Over the next few days, I heard from aunts, uncles, cousins, you name it. They were all checking in, making sure I was okay, and they were all just as shocked as Grandpa was. Turns out my parents had been telling everyone they had a professional caregiver for my sister and even taking money from the family to pay for it. Except that caregiver never existed. Everyone was pretty upset about being lied to, especially about something so serious. This past week, man, it's been a roller coaster. Tough, yeah, but also kind of eye-opening in a good way. The whole drama with my parents and finding out all that stuff I had no idea about was a lot to handle. But then there's been this unexpected silver lining. My extended family stepping up in ways I didn't even know I needed. Grandpa's been at the center of it all, trying to make up for what he keeps calling lost time. He's been really pushing me to just be a teenager again. It's weird but nice getting nudged to hang out with my friends more or just chill and do whatever I feel like. Stuff I haven't really done in, well, forever. It's like he's on this mission to help me reclaim parts of my life I didn't even realize I was missing out on. And it's not just him. My aunts and uncles have been amazing. For me to stay with him for the time being, my parents want to talk to me, but we have decided it's best I leave for now to have some space and time to collect myself. We will be sitting down and talking later this week about this issue. Thank you all again for the love and support through this. I started by telling my grandpa the story of why I broke down the way I did. And to be honest, when I finally spilled everything to Grandpa, his reaction was way more intense than I expected. I mean, I knew he'd be surprised, but he looked downright shocked, horrified. I told him all about how things have been at home, how I've basically been my sister's full-time caregiver on top of everything else, and how it all came crashing down that day with my dad's joke about college and taking care of her forever. Grandpa was seriously upset, especially when he found out that my sister was supposed to have professional help that she wasn't getting. He said a lot of stuff. He told me some things that I don't feel comfortable repeating here, but in essence, my sister is supposed to be getting care from a professional and that my parents were ignoring that. But the gist was that it wasn't right or safe for me to be in that position, especially with how things were with my sister. He couldn't believe my parents were putting all this on me and that they'd kept so much from the rest of the family. He was also really mad about the whole movie incident, saying it was the last straw that showed how unfairly I was being treated. Grandpa's pretty chill most of the time, so seeing him this mad was kind of a big deal. He told me straight up not to talk to my parents unless he was there, which was a relief, honestly. He said he'd talk to them first, sort everything out, and be there with me for any conversations in the future. But it wasn't just Grandpa. Over the next few days, I heard from aunts, uncles, cousins, you name it. They were all checking in, making sure I was okay, and they were all just as shocked as Grandpa was. Turns out my parents had been telling everyone they had a professional caregiver for my sister, and even taking money from the family to pay for it, except that caregiver never existed. Everyone was pretty upset about being lied to, especially about something so serious. This past week, man, it's been a roller coaster. Tough, yeah, but also kind of eye-opening in a good way. The whole drama with my parents and finding out all that stuff I had no idea about was a lot to handle. But then there's been this unexpected silver lining. My extended family stepping up in ways I didn't even know I needed. Grandpa's been at the center of it all, trying to make up for what he keeps calling lost time. He's been really pushing me to just be a teenager again. It's weird but nice, getting nudged to hang out with my friends more or just chill and do whatever I feel like. Stuff I haven't really done in, well, forever. It's like he's on this mission to help me reclaim parts of my life I didn't even realize I was missing out on. And it's not just him. My aunts and uncles have been amazing too. They've been around a lot this week, checking in, bringing over food, just talking and actually listening. It's like they're making this massive effort to show they care, to make sure I don't feel alone in this whole mess. It's pretty overwhelming, but in the best way possible. For the first time in what feels like ages, I'm not just the sister or the caretaker. I'm just me, and that feels really good. The talk with my parents on Saturday night, disaster doesn't even cover it. I went in hoping maybe, just maybe, we could start fixing things. Instead, it fell apart even more. They actually admitted to a bunch of stuff. Stuff so messed up I can't even bring myself to type it out here. But the kicker, not a single sorry came out of their mouths. Instead, they doubled down, saying I was pretty much born to be my sister's caretaker. Yeah, my dad actually said that. Like my whole purpose was just about taking care of her. I couldn't keep it together. All the stuff I'd found out, all the support I'd been getting from the rest of the family, it all just bubbled up. I called them out on everything. The lies about the caretaker, the money they were supposedly spending on it, but actually weren't, all of it. But they just dodged and made excuses. By the end of the talk, things were even worse than before. It felt like hitting a brick wall trying to get through to them. I'd gone into that conversation with a sliver of hope that we could mend things, but I walked out feeling like that chance was completely torched. So after that disaster talk with my parents, I made up my mind. I'm done. Had a long chat with Grandpa and my uncle last night, and we all agreed it's best if I don't go back. Today's the day I'm officially moving out to live with Grandpa. It feels weird, making this huge change, but it also feels right, like I finally have some control over my life again. I've also decided I'm leaving the state for college once I'm done with high school. Just the thought of starting fresh somewhere new is kind of thrilling. My aunt, she's been incredible through all this. She told me she's going to start sending the money directly to me, the money she used to give to my dad for my sister's care. Guess it's going to be my college fund now. My parents, they've called a couple of times since that night, but if you're thinking they called to say sorry or that they missed me, nah. They just wanted to know when I was planning to come back home. It's like they're not even trying to understand why I had to leave. I know this is going to be a huge change, and honestly, I'm kind of scared. But at the same time, I feel this weight lifting off me. I'm finally making decisions for myself, and there's something really freeing about that. Today's just the start of something new, I guess. Deciding not to go back to my parents was tough, not going to lie. There's this uneasy feeling sitting in my stomach, but deep down, I think it'll fade with time. The support I've been getting from the rest of my family has been unreal. It's weird. Even though I've made this big decision, feeling all their love and support makes the whole situation a bit easier to handle. But yeah, the harsh truth, I've pretty much lost my parents through all this. That realization hits hard. It's a lot to process, and sometimes I catch myself wishing things could have been different. But through all the mess, I've come to see something really important. I don't hate my sister. That anger I thought I felt towards her was misplaced. She's not the one to blame for how our parents chose to handle things. I love her more than I can say, and hating her for something she had no control over was wrong on so many levels. I hope someday I can make that right. For now, though, leaving is what I need to do for myself. It's about finding my own way, figuring out who I am outside of this whole situation. It's going to be a journey, but I'm ready for it. Edit. Thank you all so much. I wish I could respond to every single one of you, but my lunch only lasts so long. I'll update tonight on how the move out went, but until then, thank you all. I want to say that your support has been amazing, and your kindness means more to me than anyone could ever imagine. Moving out was surreal. Grandpa and my uncle were with me every step of the way, helping me pack up my life into boxes and bags. Everything that meant something to me, we took. Made sure to grab all the important stuff like my birth certificate and social security card. It felt weirdly official, like I was collecting pieces of my old life to start a new one. My parents, They were pretty much silent the whole time. Dad took off with my sister not long after I got there, leaving just my mom to watch us pack. She didn't say much, just hovered in the background. It was awkward, tense even, but then as we were about to leave, she finally broke down. She said she loved me, that she'd miss me. After days of silence, those words hit differently. I hugged her, said goodbye. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Sitting in my new room at Grandpa's house, I keep replaying that moment. Did she mean what she said? After everything, it's hard to know for sure, but I want to believe she did. Right now, all I can do is focus on what's ahead. Maybe with time, my parents and I can find a way back to each other.